specialize right now in content marketing and strategy. I mean, during my experience, I've seen brands, businesses, and individuals face problems, with their marketing strategy,
Yeah.
specifically in growing and attracting clients. And I've seen the mistakes they've done and things to correct it. And I decided to do something about this. And right now, since a couple of years, I've started to educate businesses and brands. And so far, I must have helped around hundreds of brands and business leaders to really learn to use the power of content marketing and to really generate qualified leads and form these meaningful connections that they require right now. I mean, people have many names for me. People call me mentor, coach, blogger, podcaster, writer, strategist. I do all of those, but I prefer to be called a marketeer.
Marketeer.
Yeah.
Yep, understand. So, well, it's a good general term. You'd probably say that's pretty similar to me.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I know that you've worn multiple hats and you've done a lot of things. And I actually feel quite honored to be talking with such a distinguished leader such as yourself.
Well, we just do it as we do what we do, Anshav. That's not Anshav. I'm looking at the wrong one. The Avnish.
Avnish, yeah.
But yeah, Avnish. Yeah, it's just we do it. You do what you do. You don't set out to do anything specifically to be anything specifically. You just do what you do. Just like you're explaining. You're helping. You're connecting people. You're adding value wherever you can. Like you, I do leadership podcasts. I do that just to help people to get messages out there. It's just you do things to add value to, I guess, to the community, to world, to help people's business. It's you get paid, but you don't go out. I want to get paid, so therefore I'll do this. I go out to do this, and therefore I'll get paid for it. It's a different mindset. So it's you're trying to do something to add value, and you get paid in due course, right? That's how I look at it.
That's fair enough. I mean, the thing is, we do everything without any expectations. That's the main point in order to help people. Yeah.
Well, then that's it. You're trying to do it to help people. That's the motivation. The rest just follows through. It just follows on.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, we specifically invited you here, as Anshav said. I've been helping him on his project. I mean, he'll go more into detail about it, and we've got a couple of questions lined up for you. I mean, I'll be asking a few, and then Anshav will carry on after.
Yep.
If that's all right with you.
That's fine. That's fine. Yep.
That's all right with you as well, Anshav?
Absolutely right. So Navneesh, I'll just start the session with my welcoming Ross over there on this I call this as Design Your Unicorn show. So we can just talk about that, and then we can probably introduce you, and then you can take it over from there.
Sure.
Okay. Ron, is it possible for you to quickly download your that 16:9 creative which I've sent it to you over WhatsApp and put it as a background frame for you?
The background?
Yes.
I did. I've got it, but I've just got to. I'll have to go out and come in. I'm not very. I'm IT challenged. I meant to do it. So, I have done it. It'll take me a minute or two to actually.
No problem. I can help you out. So, do you have web.whatsapp.com on your?
Yeah, I do. I've already downloaded. I've already downloaded it.
Okay.
I've already got it. It's already in Zoom, but I've just got to click it on to read. But I don't know how to click it on without leaving the meeting and coming back.
No, so you have to go to that video option where the stop video is there. Go to choose virtual background.
Okay, video option. All right. So share screen reactions.
No, so there'll be an option at the video side where you are switching off or switching on your video.
Yeah, that's it. Off and on. I don't.
Yeah, so there is an arrow button there. There is an arrow button, up arrow. When you click on that, you will find choose virtual background.
Ah, I'm with you. Yeah. Choose virtual back. Ah, yes. Now let me find it. That should be it. How does that look? Does that come up?
You would have to come back in, I guess,
Yeah,
as in
okay.
switch on your video.
Switch on the video. Yep, that makes sense. Righto. Yes.
Perfect.
Oh,
Got
wow.
something.
That looks something amazing.
You've done well, Anshav. You've done something that most people have never been able to do, is teach me something electronically while I'm on the go. Normally I have to stop and take an hour to get over it.
Now you can use this as a background wherever you go, or any other background you would like to do. Go
Yeah,
forward.
I've got a few. Yeah, I've got a
Next
few
to your
backgrounds.
interviews or meetings, or even your recorded sessions.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Okay, so I think Sharmila is also joining in. Let's have a quick welcome of her, and then we will start. Hi, Sharmila. Good
Hello,
afternoon.
good afternoon.
So Sharmila is, I think I would want Sharmila herself to kind of give a little introduction about herself. But let me brief you about her a bit. So, the story goes something like a 5.5-year-old bubbly girl walking and running around in the house. And 10 days after that, she found herself on a bed with half of her body paralyzed, with eyesight gone, her legs and hands are not moving and working, and things, and the speech is totally gone. So that's what Sharmila is all about. And today you see her after almost 51 years of that life, how she has transformed herself to a person, amazing person today, and what she's working towards building up an accessible and inclusive society. So that's Sharmila. Rest, I will leave it to you, Sharmila, to introduce about yourself, a little bit about your story and your mission towards developing this accessible society.
Thank you. You have already covered a lot. Yeah, it took me about 18 years to get to a place from where I could talk and work. But offense crime, but I have yes. So today we have that challenge of building a inclusive and accessible society. So Ross, that's what I am working towards. Building a community of people who will be helped and help me in setting up this entire process.
Yeah, understand. Very good ideology. It's a good cause. Badly needed, very needed.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. That's very good. Yes, good.
Okay.
I like that. Yes.
Thank you so much, Sharmila, Navneesh, and Ross, specifically to accept my invite for this interview. So I'll always let me start this. Okay. Happy Bringling. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Design Your Unicorn show, which is as part of Bringle Talks, where we have invited Ross Swan from Singapore, who is kind of working very hard towards building up the leadership within the entrepreneurs and the business owners across the globe. I would like to welcome and thank Ross out here to take his time and share some of his insights with us and to the entire community of our current community of 50,000 plus entrepreneurs, investors, and mentors. Once again, welcome Ross, and would like you to kind of introduce a little bit, and then I will request Navneesh to take it forward from there.
Thank you, Anshav. Thank you. So do you want me to speak a little bit about myself?
Yes, Ross.
Okay. Well, I'm living in Singapore. By my accent, I'm Australian. Come from a corporate life, and it partially through that in the executive position that I wanted to, I could see through that period the need for having good leadership in organizations. I could see the effect, or I felt the effect of working for a good leader and then working for someone who's not so good. Just how it affects your life and then your family's life, etc., etc. Just how much good leadership does. It helps people live better lives, and as well as helping the organization, of course. So that started me wanting to become a coach, because I felt this burning need to be helping to grow leaders. And that's how it's just grown. I moved to Singapore because it's a bit more central. And I work with some organizations around the world. So this is a bit easier geographically for travel, would be in Singapore. So that's the reason why I moved here. So, and that's my passion, is growing leaders. So people in leadership can then, the people within their control or within their parameter, have better lives because they're working for better leaders. So that's in essence all about me trying to grow leaders. And there again, that becomes the diversity, the youth, and that's why I've been mentoring youth for quite a few years now in different countries, Africa, India, and the like, just helping them become leaders. And that's not leader of a lot of people, that's being better self-leaders.
Thank you so much, Ross. And I would like to take this opportunity to invite Novnish now. And Novnish, is one of our advisor, content advisor, mentor, supporter in various different ways. And I would like to request Novnish to kind of give a little introduction about himself, and would want him to, take this session along with Ross.
Yeah, thanks, Anshav. Also, thanks, Ross, for being here. As I've said before, I'm a content marketeer and strategist right now, and my goal is to mainly help brands and businesses to grow and form meaningful communications and to generate leads using the power of content marketing. And great introduction there, Ross. And honestly, you've been quite humble because I know that you've done much more than this, because I've had a look at your profile as well. And some of the things that I pointed that I could pick out was that you're a dynamic speaker as well, with outstanding skills in communication. And you've got a broad experience in varied industries that I quite envy. And honestly, you have this motivation to contribute and to motivate others to also feel the same, to feel comfortable and all of that. And moving on with this, I wanted to ask you some questions. I mean, you said you've recently come to Singapore. I mean, I'm also coming from India, but it's been around 22 years I've been in France. But mostly leaders, when they choose to be in a central place, they prefer either the center of Europe. But what is it specifically that attracted you to Singapore, apart from the centrality that you mentioned?
I think, well, that was a big issue. Plus, being in Australia, I come from the financial services industry, and everyone saw me as a financial services executive. And I wanted to be coaching across all organizations. So another reason why I came here is that no one really knew me. I came to Singapore not knowing anyone. So I had to start from nothing. In the end, I've got quite a few banks as clients, but in some of my old skills, but still they looked at me as Ross Swan, the new Ross Swan, not the old and what he's done in the past. So that's probably the prime reason. And the fact that it's an easy place to live, and they look after you. It's a nice clean place to be in.
That's great. I mean, I've been there a couple of times, and I really enjoyed being there. The people are quite warm and friendly, Yeah, and it's quite small, You can go from across one end of Singapore to another in a few hours, which is quite nice.
That's right. And coming from Australia, nothing's small there. Everything's a long distance. It's like it's just such a novelty for me to get around the place so easily.
Yeah, great. And I mentioned you've done a lot of things and worn multiple hats, but what is it that you've enjoyed doing the most and being the most, and why?
It comes back to what my purpose is, and that's trying to grow people to be better leaders. And to be better leaders, they've got to be better leaders of self. So it's some of the most rewarding things is seeing when people actually, it's like an epiphany, right? Now I get it. And they start to realize it all revolves around them, their inner self, not about what they think about how they compete with other people in the work front, which becomes very political, all these sorts of issues. I'm doing this because I want to be seen to be holding people accountable, or I'm doing this because I want to be seen to be doing this. It's not that. It's how you feel deep inside, how you want to be a leader. What legacy do you want to leave? And it's always positive. Whenever I've asked that question, people always have a positive thing. I've never told, no one's ever told me ever, I want to be known as a real idiot or someone who's very nasty. They might be acting nasty, but when they start to sort of get in touch with their inner being and their feelings, it's always a positive thing. So that becomes a revelation for people that they actually should be operating from their inner self, not their outer head.
That's something powerful that you've said, and I always say this to others when they ask me, what would you like to be called or be known for when you leave? And I tell these people, I need to be known with a name, in the sense, let's say you don't know me yet, but let's say I've helped you with something in marketing. And when I do leave, you probably won't even remember my name, but you will remember that thing, that something, that help that I provided you. It could have been just you learning something or moving something that you found that you couldn't do before, in strategy or marketing. That's what I want to be remembered by. I mean, okay, this guy is a marketeer is not enough for me. This guy is someone that I actually learned from and that has helped me do something, that's that I want to be remembered for.
Yeah. And Navesh, the important thing here, it's people remember you years later for how you made them feel.
Yeah.
So if you're helping them grow, that's a good feeling. People don't grow as an individual and then be negative about it. It's the positive feeling that, man, I've learned something new here. I feel good. That's the feeling they remember. They don't remember you, as you said, as a marketing guru, I'm a leadership expert, or whatever it is. How did you make them feel? That's
absolutely
the key.
It's that mindset and feeling. And talking about this mindset, I mean, I've worked with a lot of marketeers and people with big heads in business, and honestly, I found it quite challenging regarding their mindset and perspective to change it towards bringing this, how do I say, this positive aspect to employees. I mean, because they always think that, okay, one person is enough to bring about business performance. They don't talk about the entire team. So regarding this, has there been any situation that was challenging to you regarding the business leaders and their employees?
Yeah, that's yeah, you're asking the question. Old pile come into my head because there's a lot of like you're living in a world of total well, what's the word? Total denial if you don't see any of these challenges, right? There's one always comes to mind. This person, I don't know, he had a team of about 90, 100 people, I suppose, and he played a lot of political games. So he operated in his head. In other words, he was always comparing himself to everyone else. And therefore he wanted to be better than his peers so he can get the next promotion, all these sorts of things. And he wanted to be seen as someone who holds people accountable and all that sort of stuff. And one day, and so I was given this job to coach him because he had a few challenges. So it was more of a remedial job, not a development coaching role. This is a remedial one. In other words, I was there to help him. Not that he could see that, but I was there to help him. Right? So he starts berating and yelling at one of his junior, or say junior, the person was about 30, because this guy was about 50. He's yelling at him in the workspace, just yelling and berating him, right? So I come around a bit later and I hear all this. So I go and sit with him and I started to talk about it. And see, his motivation was to show all the others that he's tough and he holds everyone accountable. They better just put their head down, they better work. That's the motivation. So I said, so you're telling me that? Okay, well, but he said his name then. But anyway, so just picture this, right? You know, he's just had a new baby, like his wife's just had a new baby, a couple of months old, but he's got a 3.5-year-old son, right? And so you've done this in front of all the other people. Oh, that's fair enough. He goes home tonight, opens the door, comes in, his little son runs up and grabs him by the leg and say, "How was your day, Daddy? Was it good fun?"
Yeah.
And I just stopped, never said a word. And it took him it felt like about 3 hours, but it was probably about 10 seconds. He goes, "Yeah, I was a bit tough, wasn't I?" See, there again, that's getting in touch with his emotional self. That's his inner self. His head thought it was a lot of fun. But when you get down deep down to your inner self, it's not so much fun. That's when he started to realize the impact he's having on people's lives. Then I said, let's look at the economic side of this. For the rest of the day, he's done very little because he's now thinking about what you've done to him. Not just him. So what you're paying him, that's a half a day's lost wages. And I suspect for the rest of the week, not very much. You're going to get much out of him, right? Then you add up all the other 30 people around him immediately that would have heard it. Now let's quantify the wages. They're not working because they're thinking, I hope I'm not next. They don't work. They're just thinking about, I hope I'm not next, right? They're not actually putting in. So let's quantify that. You just cost your organization X, Y, Z. Now again, he nodded his head and thought, yeah, never really thought about that. Like, oh Lord. Yeah. But anyway, that's one that that's the type of thing, the struggles I have sometimes. But the one good thing, he actually got that message. So he tried to change. He started to change a bit of his ways. So we turned the needle in the right direction.
That's powerful. And I mean, I've seen several examples such as the one that you've told me, and I always think to myself, I mean, empathy doesn't. I mean, people aren't born with empathy. They either learn it over experience or it gradually comes to them. And one of the main reasons people use their emotion first instead of thinking is that on the moment, the creative side takes over more than the logical one, and that adrenaline kicks in and all of that. So they like to just blast out at first. But I always tell them, okay, whether you want to do something, whether you want to write something, or whether you want to say something, just take 5 seconds. Let all that pressure, let all that emotion come down, and then you'll just think logically and speak in the right way. Because I mean, as you said, I mean, if he hadn't said all those words, if he had just taken, that person to the side and spoken some kind words with him, things would have been much different, right?
That's right.
So it's just that spark of a second that
it was
matters.
a spark of a second, but driven by his head. That's his head saying, "I need to compete." The emotions are always there. And unfortunately, when you're leading yourself, children aren't taught how to lead themselves or any aspects of self-leadership. You're taught to think cognitively. You're taught to think with your brain. All the exams you go through school is all you're right or wrong, right? Where you're not. So you learn to squash your emotions. So when it does come out, it becomes a blast. But the mere fact that he was using his emotions then and starting to think in a bit more way, reflecting his emotions, that's different, like you're saying. That's the key. But you're not taught that, right? And therefore people blast out when the emotion gets too strong, and then it becomes a problem. So that's the issue there. Yeah.
And you mentioned something about the business performance as well, because this affected his business performance. So I have a question on that. So when you want to help a business with its performance, what are the elements that you think should be there for your selection criteria? I mean, why would you choose to help one business over another in a similar situation?
Well, no, I could jokingly say whoever pays the most, but at the end of the day, it's a bit more than that. It's like this particular person was within a large business that I've done a lot of work for, because their mindset is we've got to help this person remedially because we don't just suffer it, right? So if he didn't turn the needle in the right direction, he wasn't going to be going much further in his career. But when you're looking at people I'm coaching, I mean, the key is, and I've had some difficult ones where I'm forced to be coaching them. I don't have a choice. It's part of the client's wish, and I choose to be with that client. But one of the key things, are you open enough to be open to it? If your head's so closed that you don't want to be open to any thinking or any new data or new ideas, then that becomes difficult. And what will happen, the company will pay me for so long to work with this person. If the person's so close, I'm not going to move the needle very much. And if I'm not going to move the needle very much, they say, oh, let's not worry about that person. Like, so it doesn't add any value to anyone, right? It wastes company money, it wastes their time, my time, the whole lot. But if the person seems to be a bit open to, having their antennas up, they're listening, that's probably one of the criteria. But having said that, I've had to coach a lot of people where they're totally oblivious to what was going on around them and really totally oblivious to coaching. So some you win, some you lose. You don't have the time.
That's actually quite true. I sometimes do that as well, because I come across these people, as you said, totally blocked, and they think they've learned everything. They know what to do, everything perfectly. I tell them one thing: okay, you've come to me for a reason. Now forget everything that you've learned so far. Just forget it and think of yourself starting from scratch, and think that the other person in front of you has been to whatever places you've been, done everything that you've done, and just open up your mind just to learn. And it helps. It has helped me quite a bit of times, because they forget that, okay, they're like these great people that have accomplished everything, and they come down to the ground floor, put it that way. You mentioned earlier in the beginning about these technologies and these digital elements. There's a question that I wanted to ask you about. That is, what are your thoughts to the current digital world, and how have you transitioned in terms of the mindset to adapt to it?
Well, that's a good question. When you're looking at me on the screen now, and you see all this grey hair of what's left of it. Most of it's getting very, very sparse. But so the digital world is somewhat more challenging for me. The IT world is challenged. I used to be, back in my corporate life, all my staff used to say I'm IT challenged, right? Because it wasn't something that come naturally. But moving into the digital world now, I mean, the key for executives in a lot of ways is letting go. It's just letting go of, as you said a minute ago, starting from a clean bit of paper, really, a clean slate, because you can't hold on to the old and then go truly into the digital world. So you've just got to say, this is the way I'm going to operate. And don't worry about everything else. It'll take care of itself. Don't look at this way, but keep the old way, just in case. It mentally destroys you. It's just letting go, trust it's going to work, and it will eventually. It may not work perfectly, but it will eventually. That's probably the thing I learned, was just to get on the canoe and ride the rapid.
That's a good way. That's a good way of putting it. I want to tell you something that I generally face in my organization. I'm one of the youngest in my organization. Most of the people, the average age there is 45, 46. I mean, I'm 36. And to these people that are at a different generation than myself, when I come in and talk about marketing, digital, social media, webinars, virtual, and all of that, they stare at me and like, okay, blank. But then I noticed that all of these people, they know how to do it because they do it in reality, right? In real life without these things. But they just need to be taught in a specific way, to be shown in a quite easy way, you know. And when I started teaching these people how to turn on the video, how to use a webinar, how to do something on social media, I noticed that they learn very fast. Compared to millennials right now, even because they think too much. I mean, am I doing it right? Are other people going to think about what I'm saying and all of that? But these people, they really enjoy doing it. It's something new to them, and they're welcoming the learning aspect of it. And once they get the hang of it, you're set. They can do so much, so many results.
Yeah, I can understand that. Well, we're here today on a digital world, right? Across quite a few continents. Now, if you'd said to me when I was your age, this is what I'll be doing at my age, I wouldn't even understood what we're talking about. It wouldn't even come into my head that could even happen.
I mean, yeah, I only learned all of these in the past 3 to 4 years because there was a real need and a necessity. But yeah, I mean, I know what you're talking about. And I just have one last question before I transition over to Anshav.
Yeah.
And this question is, if you were given the chance to how do I say, to be able to affect, or the chance to transform the lives of 1 billion people, would you take that chance and would you support it?
No, I tend to agree. It's all about helping lives one at a time in my mind. Now, if you have enough people helping lives one at a time, then you've got your 1 billion people. It's just because if you help the life, because they're better people, they'll help other lives. That's how it grows out. It's basically a stream that sort of flows out. It just grows and networks out.
And I mean, I asked this question because that's what Anshav and Sharmila are trying to do. So
that's right.
Anshav, I've led the floor over to you. So go ahead.
Thanks you so much. Thank you so much, Navneesh and Ross. I think it was a very interesting session. I had few questions in my mind, Ross, when you were explaining about the various scenarios, especially the scenario which you mentioned about the leader, about just losing out the kind of the patience, and how did you kind of made him aware that what's happening with that. And I think before I go into the next part of it, that what we are working towards, Vision 2020 2030, to transform 1 billion lives, 1 million businesses, and 100 unicorns. Of course, we will require the funds or money inflow to do that. We have pre-estimated this value to be around $1 billion. But yes, it will happen eventually over a period of time. I think apart from the money, what we will also require, and it's a very, very sincere belief, and we all believe in Bringle when we discuss our strategies to really reach out to these billion people in the next 9 years, which are kind of pending right now. When we drafted our strategy in early 2020s, is that we will require Avengers. Now, I mean, Avengers is a very well-known movie wherein there are so many, the high-profile people, or different specialities, there are different expertise they are coming in, and so we have actually carved out. We are looking at 3 set of Avengers out right now who could actually transform the world towards a more self-sustainable economies and leading towards zero unemployment countries out there. Is one set of the people who are going to be required are the mentors. Mentors are the ones who can really support the world and save them from the skills crisis. And the second set of people who will be required are the entrepreneurs. See, entrepreneurs are the ones who will look into the future. They will want to see very different, they have a very different vision altogether. And they have a mindset which can transform a simple idea into $1 billion business model. Now, when that happens, there will be a lot of other set of Avengers will be coming in who will be investing their money into this, which we call them as investors. So the whole idea here is to bring in the 100,000 plus set of Avengers at this point in time in the next 3 to 5 years, who will be investing their time, money, and expertise. And those will be like investors, entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs, investors, and mentors. And that's where we are building up this community. Uh, See, when we talk about such kind of large missions, what will happen is that there are lot of people who kinds of come across with you saying get inspired by such kind of large visions. The problem what happens is that as a leader, when you deal with such kind of a large teams or large I would say the movement, it's not just a team building, it's a complete movement which we are doing. So I am currently leading up the Indian movement to make it as a $5 trillion economy, as a self-sustainable economy by 2025. There will be moments when you will find people coming into you with some different perspective in their mind or with some different expectations. And you're bound to get, because in that flow of, adrenaline rush, as what Novnish was mentioning, it's bound to happen that you lose out your patience, you lose out your maybe control over your thoughts or emotions, things like that. Now probably the similar thing happened with that person. uh, so how would you kind of, what would you suggest to that entrepreneur or to that leader, I would say, who is kind of managing such diverse teams and situations to handle such scenarios? Yes, making them aware is definitely one area, but on a day-to-day life, what somebody can do really different, which can keep their calm within their own self, they can manage their teams very well, and even if something happens, and there may be an extreme situations like teams splitting across, teams moving out, people finding that he's being trying to become a dictator while you're trying to just share the vision. There could be various names and other things which you might be getting. So what do you suggest to such leaders to do it on a day-to-day basis so that they can have a more calmness within their mind and they can handle these situations much differently, like the way you were mentioning about that person?
Yes, well, it's there's a lot of in that lead up. Is like, it's the end of the day. It won't always be perfect, and there will be situations. But the key is you need to be aware of it. It's like it's reflecting each day on the impact you've made on people for that day. Now, if you're oblivious to the impact, then I suggest you're probably in the wrong position. But you need the self-awareness and develop your self-awareness. But you're looking, and if you're not quite getting it, you seek feedback to get the impact, because that gives you your rudder to give you the right direction. You need to reflect each day, what impact am I having on these people? Is it positive? Like, that's what you've got to be looking at. And then you start to assess what you're trying to do. And the key there is also to focus on only the thing at hand at the time, not get the stress of 1,000 different bits of data coming at you at once and trying to react to them all at once. You take the most important, you deal with it, and you move on, because you can't cope with it all and keep some sort of semblance of calmness. And that's what gets to people. They think too much of what's around them, and they start to panic. It's like having a very cluttered desk, and now I get executives like that. Their desk is always cluttered, and they wonder why they're already stressed out, because their brain is taking in a visual picture of all the files on their desk, and it's soaking in the energy of all those jobs they're supposed to be doing. It's put the files away, put one at your desk, then your brain then focuses. It's the subconscious focuses on the one file. It's so much easier, right? But that's little simple things you do just to keep your focus on what's the most important now, and I'll do it. But continue to reflect every day. It only takes you a couple of minutes. What impact did I have on the people I connected with today? What impact did I have on my personal assistant? What impact did I have on blah, 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 whoever it is, right? Just go through that for a couple of minutes and give yourself a mark. And over time, with more self-awareness, you start to mark honestly. Quite often at the beginning, it's not so honest. You think your intent was positive, but the result was negative. That's what you need to find out about. So you got to seek feedback from others.
Got it. I think it's a fair point, Ross, out here. And I think I would also want to know a little bit more about your tagline, soul inspired leadership. And I definitely can sense a little bit around that thing that, you're looking at being it as a self-awareness part of it. And how did you get into the concept of this soul inspired leadership? Would be really interesting to know about that. So what is the concept actually which you are, kind of promoting or sharing it with the leaders?
Well, it's not something that just I woke up one morning and said, oh, that's a good idea. Let's do it that way. It's just my experience in my former corporate life in management, and learning and articulating in my own mind when I work for good leaders, what are some of the traits? What are some of the things they actually did? And how they make you feel. So that's what I kept asking. You only remember how they made you feel. Others you trusted, some you didn't trust. Like that's the thing. And then you start to ring that out. Then it started to come in my mind that it's to me, all the things the good leaders had in common, they actually led from within. They used their head for tactics, but their vision and the way they operated and the way they connected with people come from within. And then coaching people, I could see it was just more expansive. I could see that on a day-to-day basis between the good leaders and the not so good. So, and therefore I thought, well, let's put it up there, soul-inspired leadership. That's leading from within. It's being connected with your inner self, and that's leading yourself. You can't lead others until you can lead yourself. If you cannot lead yourself, you'll never be good at leading others. It just doesn't work that way.
Okay, got it. So I think that's just wonderful, Ross. And now I've also seen that, and you have actually specifically mentioned that you are currently focusing on supporting leaders within India and Africa. Now, is there any specific reason you are picking up these two countries at this point in time? And,
I coach a couple of people here, and I mentor a few here in Singapore as well. So it's not okay. I don't keep it to a particular country, but just I've connected with people in those countries, and I do, as I said, in Africa. I used to mentor someone who was in Zimbabwe. He's grown up a bit more now. He's in his mid-30s probably, so he's on his way. And now I mentor some people. One in particularly I mentor quite a bit is in Nigeria. I've mentored people in India. I mentored several here in Singapore. It just happens, right? It depends who I connect with, and it just happens.
Great. So anything which you found something connected towards the Asian continent, or from a African continent point of view, that these people are getting more attracted towards your mentorship, or you are finding it more value while working with them?
Probably the one thing, and I work with a youth group in Africa, is their willingness to learn, and that probably goes similar to India. It's because it's a bit tougher life to grow up in a lot of instances than if you are born and bred in Australia or the US. I mean, everyone has tough lives, and some have good lives, right? It's a bit of a mixture. But coming from some of those places where you're born in a village in the middle of nowhere, and you now left the village to go and make a life for yourself in the city, it's hard work. So they're willing. So in that, they're willing to learn. I guess it's no different than hard work for me to come to Singapore, not knowing anyone, and try to build a business. You've got to be willing to learn. If otherwise, it won't happen. And that's probably some of the reason why I mentor these people, because I can see they're wanting to learn something. It doesn't mean to say everything I say is should be taken as gospel. It's just they have an open mindset to grow, and that's the key. They take information from me, other places that I help mentor them with to open up their mind, to be expansive, those types of issues. And it's just the way it is at the moment. I seem to have a few who reach out. Other countries, they don't reach out.
Got that. I think one of the interesting aspects which you have put across is the willingness to learn. And in my opinion, willingness to learn is going to be a very, very important aspect for anybody, whether it is a leader or,
Right.
or anybody who's just starting up their career, or probably even a child. I mean, frankly speaking, we as a child are more curious than what we are at a youth, or maybe when we're grown up as a leader. And India and maybe the Asian countries are right now coming up really, really well, and they are looking for some, different learnings for them so that they can grow to the best. And that is why I see that a lot of things, a lot of leaders are coming out from India at this point in time.
That's
Any
right,
kind
yeah.
of one message which you would like to give it to the Indian community specifically in terms of the different challenges, what you would have seen working with for them, and what one thing you would want to tell them which you kind of admire about them while working with Indians, Indians out there.
Well, like the challenges are no different anywhere in the world, right? Everyone has challenges. The context is different. The context is different in Africa. The context is different in Singapore, Australia, UK, but the challenges are the same. The one thing I admire about people I've worked with in India is, as I said before, is the willingness to learn. And I think some of that's comes from the competitiveness, that they know the value of learning. Some of the more Western countries that have had learning, I guess learning well established and educational systems well established, it's a bit more taken for granted that you just go and learn, you do stuff. When it's not so easy to obtain, now it's a lot easier now, don't get me wrong, but it's this willingness and the competitiveness with the population the way it is. You've got to compete to get anywhere. Therefore, you have this open mindset. To me, you seem to have higher percentage with open mindset than a closed mindset. And that's probably one thing I think that young Indian youth, particularly, have a desire to want to do something. That's
something I think I am getting very, very positive vibes with this. I think leading to the same question which Navneesh was asking about our vision of transforming 1 billion lives. And let's say if I would want you to, considering that we have enough time available, and what is the time frame, whatever we will be looking for, how do you think that we would be able to propagate this soul-inspired leadership across these 1 billion lives, and how we can enable that, considering that you are one person? And what do you think that you will need, or something what we can do at Bringle to really take this leadership to 1 billion people?
Well, it starts with self-leadership. People understand what that means and how can I lead myself? How do I lead self? I'm on an advisory board of the Indian Forum of Educators, and that's looking at curriculums within India for primary, or like for secondary schools, for example. And one of the things that I push is this self-leadership. And I actually spoke at a university function just recently, and I was saying the same thing, right? That self-leadership should be taught in schools at a young age, not as a separate subject, but when all the subjects you teach, aspects of leading yourself and what this means to yourself in some of that. So you teach people to do that, because they don't get taught. They suddenly go into the business world, and then they've got to compete. They've got to do all these sorts of things. And that causes a huge gap between what they've been prepared at and what they actually facing in reality, is this shift. And self-leadership determines your attitude. And yet everyone's usually employed, trying to be employed, or employers, sorry, are looking for people with the attitude. But that, I mean, they say you can't teach attitude, but you can teach self-leadership that creates the right attitude, because you're starting to lead yourself, not let all the world around you dictate to how you think and feel, and which can be dangerous in social media, because, oh, this is very sad, I didn't get 1 million likes for my last post, so I'll feel very depressed. I mean, that's letting the world dictate how you get on in life. Self-leadership is not worried about that, right? It's a different mindset. The more we can do that, so it's more about pushing the youth to be good leaders of self, and that will make a massive, massive difference.
Great. So, Ross, I think having worked with almost 1 million learners by now in the last 3 to 4 years, which we have kind of worked with them in different age groups.
Yep.
One of the observation which I've seen is that 52% of the population of typically for any country, 52% are children, which are your,
Yep.
class, you're up to like 18 years of age or things like that, typically,
Yep.
or 12th standard, or, people like that. And there are around 18 to 20% of people are youth, which are up to the age of 25 years old. So frankly speaking, if you see, it covers like 70% of any population of any country. Now you mentioned about a point that we should be teaching about soul-inspired leadership at a young age. Now, when you are trying to inspire or instill those thoughts of soul-inspired leadership at a very young age, what age group you are looking at? So, are you saying that can it be instilled at the age group of 6 years, 7 years, or earlier, or there is a particular age group on that?
Any age group, right? Because parents should be doing that. At the end of the day, that's how you should be teaching your children, to be aware of leading yourself and what that means. Like little simple things just don't get taught. That just doesn't happen. So children go off to school and then they get taught to be right or wrong. All these types of things that actually don't really encourage them to be creative. It just teaches them, if you do that and you're wrong, well, you're wrong, you don't pass, right? That's not actually great for teaching creativity in schools. And that's why it's such a challenge when they get to jobs with the creativity aspects. So look, it should be just one of those things that it just happens, but we don't do it. And the issue is there, like if you get ignoring the parents, if we get to teachers, if they can't lead themselves and be good leaders of self, then they'll never be able to teach it. Like, it just doesn't happen. So this is the whole thing. So this is what I'm happy about, what you're trying to do. To change people's lives, if they become aware of what it means to lead yourself and how much value you can add and how much more fun it is to live a life when you're leading yourself properly, then that just grows and grows, because you'll influence others how to lead themselves, your children, students, friends, whatever. But you can't teach someone else to lead themselves when you can't do it yourself. It's just like, as I said before, if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead others. It just doesn't work. You can lead them, but in name only. It's just the position you are in the organization. Doesn't mean you won't be any good, because all the good ones can lead themselves.
True. Okay, so do you have some kind of a learning modules on this which you have created, maybe for and what age group you have those modules for? And if somebody wants to access those modules, how they can get the benefit out of that?
Yeah, I have modules. It's probably for they can access them. I've got 2 at the moment. I'm building a few others. But it's probably for people from 20 all the way up to 60. Right? It doesn't really matter, because you're never too old to suddenly realize you should be leading yourself. I've had 1 or 2 people in their mid-50s go, man, I wish I knew I should have been thinking about this before. Things don't worry me anymore. I don't get worried about what everyone else is thinking. I'm trying to be consistent with what impact I want to make to the world and how positive I want to make it, right? Because they're connecting. Because when you connect with the inner self, it's always for positiveness. It's not a negative. So it doesn't come from the heart to hate someone. That's a position of love in a way, right? The head tells you to hate. The heart tells you to love. That's the difference. So when you start to have that, and they're knowing that with leadership now, and that's the biggest reason why we have poor leadership across organisations. The standard is not that high, but the ones who, companies are realising that they've got to be close to people and have empathy. Now, I was reading somewhere the other day that someone says, well, they can't have empathy and then hold people accountable at the same time. It's very hard to be task focused and have people focused. Well, you can. You just got to mix it. It's not one or the other. It's a blend. And that's what all the good leaders have, a blend. They know when to connect with empathy and when to hold people accountable for what needs to be done. Just like they hold themselves accountable for what needs to be done. See, that's where it starts. Hold yourself accountable in your own self-leadership. Don't just give yourself an excuse, oh, it won't matter. It doesn't matter, I'll be right. But you've got to hold yourself accountable properly. That's that reflection of what impact you had on people, right? That starts with all that. So it gradually grows out. So I keep talking about, because I'm so passionate about what we really need. If we had self-leadership, more self-leaders, the world would be a different place, I can tell you. Soul-inspired leaders, that's what I'm saying.
Got it. So I think this looks very, very inspiring, Ross, and I think we will need to really probably set up a separate discussion on this to discuss more about this, the modules, how we can really take this up to the, to a 1 billion people.
Can do.
Together, because we will.
Yeah.
Sure. So I think we will do that. Apart from that, what I would also want, I think I would, at this point in time, I would like to invite Sharmila out here, because she has gone through her life. She has gone through a life which is not so easy. Okay. So, probably we had our different challenges, but the challenge which Sharmila has faced, being a physically disabled person, and how she has kind of transformed her life from a half paralytic body to something today where she has some bit of a physical problem. She goes to the daily pain of physiotherapies and other medical conditions, and how she manages her mindset, or how she keeps her inspired. And if she has certain questions from you, to keep such leaders, because there are so many stories where disabled people have made really, really big. And one of the, maybe you can say that it's not a big problem, or I don't know how do you call that up, but we know people like Richard Branson, we know people like Damon John of Shark Tank, and things like that. The people who have been dyslexic, but they've made really, really, they've done really wonders in the world. And here is what Sharmila, who has got another story like that in a different way. So what Sharmila, over to you, Sharmila. I would like to ask, request you to check, ask some questions to Ron in terms of accessibility, inclusivity, and what kind of a, self-motivation or soul-inspired leadership we can instill in the people who are going through this phase of disability.
I'll take my own case as a part of this question, that at times I get bogged down, and that is because of my physical condition, which affects my mental makeup as well. If I am in pain consistently for months on end, it eventually adds to my mental health issues. Yeah. And at times when I tell Ansha that this is what is happening, it affects the entire environment. And I do get bogged down to a certain extent because I have limited ability in functioning with my limbs. Now, when I am working, I forget everything else. But when I am off work, that hampers my entire persona. It makes me a little completely off social, a completely off social person. I do not want to interact. I do not want to talk because my vocal cords are already stressed. Then I get a response from family, from friends that you have certain issues. These are issues that crop up even with one of my ex-colleagues who is deaf, and he is at a senior position in a company as a HR specialist. But yes, when you are disabled, certain things do not work with you, and they are at odds with the work that you are doing to provide more and more accessibility and inclusivity to people like us. It becomes a big block for me sometimes, and to clear that, I have to shut down and restart, reboot my entire mental makeup. That is the problem that we all face when we are disabled and working.
Yeah, I can understand that. So what you're saying is when you're working and your mind's on the work, you're enjoying it. So all you do is focusing on the work.
Yes.
And when work stops, you start thinking about everything else. See, that's gets back to what I was saying. That's your head now telling you, oh, I've got this challenge, I've got this physical challenge, I've got this mental, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And right. But when you're working, you're not worrying about those. You're doing what you enjoy doing. That's the emotional side of it, because you're enjoying what you're doing. So the key is when you're not working, you've got to just think about, because yourself as a soul. I mean, at the end of the day, the soul is not disabled. You're only disabled physically. You have the same soul as everyone else. So that's what you got to keep telling yourself. You're just a personality like everyone else, except there are some physical challenges, or there could be other challenges, whatever you want to see where the differences are with people in the world, right? But the key is we're all souls and we're all spirits. So that's still there. So you got to keep reminding yourself that you're just a soul like everyone else, just so happen to be in a body that's just a bit more challenged. Now, and that's what you just got to keep. There again, that's like self-leadership. You're just trying to motivate yourself from within, internally. But if you keep thinking about, oh, I can't do what someone else can do, I can't do, that's all your head going, oh, well, I can't do this. But what the key is inside, what can I do? Yes, I enjoy working. What else can I do that I want to do that'll make me happy? And that's the key. Not I want to do what someone else can do. If I can't physically, then what can I do that's going to make me happy? What do I enjoy? What do I do can make me happy? Don't then put yourself there. This is what I can't do what they do. Then you feel sad. I can't go out and play cricket. I feel sad, right? I'll just do what I can do that I feel happy, that makes me happy. That's what you've got to find. What makes me happy outside of work, where I get happy, where I'm happy, because I forget. That makes sense?
That makes sense.
Good.
Thank you so much, Ron, for taking this time to share your views and thoughts about this. We will definitely reconnect sometime to understand more about soul-inspired leadership and how we can take it to a billion people and help them basically, develop themselves within self, and then eventually they can probably become ambassadors of soul-inspired leadership and attack eventually can create a, as you said, spark, that spark within so many people, and it can go with a lightning speed. So let's hope for the best out there, and looking forward from my side, we all at Bringle are committed to transform 1 billion lives, 1 million businesses, and 100 unicorns with our vision 2020-2030.
Yeah.
And thanks, we will be inviting many more leaders, or as I said, Avengers from across the globe who could contribute towards this mission, who could spare 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour with us and share their learnings and teachings, which we can spread out to all these 1 billion people so that they can learn from the inspiring leaders like you, and take some actions in their life and do something for their own country. It's a financial freedom movement which we have started on 75th Independence Day of India, 15th August 2021, to achieve the financial freedom for the country. Because the finance is going to be one of the major #1 skill which is to be learned by children or entrepreneurs or maybe the youth today, and even every leader out there. So that's where we will be looking at transforming India as a $5 trillion self-sustainable economy, focusing towards generating so many jobs that we will eventually have zero unemployment. With this, I would like to thank you once again, Ross. Thanks, Navneesh and Sharmila,
Thank you.
join this session.
Thanks, Navneesh. Sharmila,
Any
good to meet both of you.
Yep.
Likewise,
last
Ross.
word you would like to share that for the audience, Ross, Navneesh, and Sharmila?
Any last word? Oh, sorry, Navesh.
Yes.
I just wanted to say, focus on your mindset and the goals that you want to do, and block out all the clutter around you. That would help a lot.
Thank you.
Ross?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's that focusing on what makes you happy and just keep doing that, right? And don't keep telling yourself, I've got to compete with some or be like someone else. Just be Sharmila and be the best version of Sharmila in whatever way you can be. It puts a smile on your face. That's what you got to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you'll find me smiling also. I can't keep it's not this way. It's always up.
That's good.
That's Sharmila. That's Sharmila. So Sharmila, any last words right now before we end the session today?
A few last words. Well, keep going. We have doing. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
That's great. And I think I will always keep this as my last word. Keep bringing, keep growing.
Keep going.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ross.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.